Urbanization has created a surprising casualty. Abandoned ghost towns exist in many parts of China. Ordos was once a prosperous coal mining town in Inner Mongolia, but a failed economic boom there left it abandoned. CCTV's Han Peng has more.
This job is a change for Mr. Jia Baoyu. When he first arrived in Kangbashi of Ordos, he took on a role as a construction worker. The city witnessed a construction boom from 2004 to 2009. Over 50 office buildings, schools, and shopping malls mushroomed from the ground of the once uninhabited desert. But now this is one of the very few jobs still available for him: cleaning up what is left in town.
I was fired from the construction site because they no longer had money to sustain our wages. Quite a few building projects have been hoarded or even abandoned since then.
We visited one of the many abandoned construction sites, projects that were all too familiar to Mr. Jia. The sheer scale of the emptiness is testament of what a bursting housing bubble can look like. But the story had a prosperous start over a decade ago when a coal rush began in Inner Mongolia. Local farmers sold their land to the miners and became instantly rich. Encouraged by the boom, the local government also placed big bets. It invested 5.5 billion RMB, or around $900 million to build a huge new town. That was meant to be housing for over 1 million residents. Now the town waits in vain for traffic that seemed never to arrive.
So their idea is, if we build it, they will come. And this is what happens. There's this idea that if we can get the government to give us the policies to build, if we can get the industries to come here, then we can get the policies to move the people into the city. The difficult part is you have to bring all three of those things together to create a complete economic engine.
Over the past few decades, China's urbanization, billed as the greatest in human history, has been driven by government-led investment. Most of them were successful. As the economy roared, authorities wielded increasingly capital to more ambitious city planning. But in Kangbashi, this huge engine came to a standstill with the unexpected slump in coal prices. Apartments were built, but people never came. Mr. Wen Qingliang was one of the very few residents we have met on road.
He's
reluctant to comment on the emptiness and says the government is still working to bring more people in.
Recently, we have several new schools that started classes in the city. Hopefully, that will bring more families to settle down here.
Meanwhile, for Mr. Jia, he's chosen to stay because he still has hope that the city's growth will pick up again, and that maybe one day he can transition from a migrant worker to an urbanite.
China's urbanization with unprecedented speed and scale is still underway despite the existence of a few so-called ghost towns like this. But the country has learned a lesson and is now struggling to find the right pattern for its development. After all, urbanization is not just about building spectacular high-rises, but also about building decent lives for people living in them. Han Peng, CCTV, Ordos, Inner Mongolia.